The Helios Interstellar Combat Academy floated above a blue gas giant like a sharp piece of metal cutting into the sky. And inside its wide halls, young warriors from across the galaxy trained to survive wars that never seemed to end. Yet among all those powerful beings, there was one small figure who did not belong, a human girl named Lyra Hale. Standing quietly at the back of Combat Classroom 7 while the rest of the cadets talked loudly and laughed, their voices filled with pride and cruelty, because humans were still new to the stars and everyone believed they were weak, soft, and only useful as helpers, not fighters. And Lyra felt every stare on her back as if it were a blade. Yet she kept her head down and her red scarf tight around her neck, hiding the mark beneath it as the instructor, a tall Threxian with 4 arms and old battle scars, began to explain the day's combat drill, but his eyes stopped on Lyra with clear doubt, and a heavy silence fell before it shattered into laughter when a large Draken cadet leaned forward and mocked her, asking if she was lost or if she had wandered into the wrong room, and the laughter spread fast, sharp, and loud, echoing off the metal walls, while Lyra stood still, her hands shaking slightly, not from fear but from something deeper she had spent her whole life holding back. Memories of burning cities, screaming alarms, and promises whispered in secret rooms on Earth. Memories of training that no one at this academy could imagine. And when the instructor finally spoke her name, his voice carried no respect as he assigned her to the frontline role in the simulation, the place where soldiers died first. And the class laughed again because everyone knew humans could not survive high gravity or direct combat. But Lyra said nothing as the lights dimmed and the room shifted, holograms forming a broken battlefield under a red sky, with wrecked ships and smoke filling the air. And for a moment it felt like just another cruel test meant to humiliate her, until the ground shook and warning sirens screamed louder than any drill before, and the sky above the simulation cracked open as massive black shapes tore through space itself, the Voidborn Dominion arriving without warning, their ships alive with moving metal and glowing eyes. And panic spread instantly as cadets realized this was not a test, because real energy blasts slammed into the Academy shields, the system voice announcing a live incursion in a cold, flat tone, and the instructor froze, his experience useless in the face of something so sudden, while cadets ran, screamed, or fired wildly, their weapons barely scratching the enemy, and Lyra felt the moment arrive, the one she had been prepared for since childhood. As the air grew heavy and the sound of war filled the room, and when a Dominion creature broke through the defenses and charged the class, sharp limbs raised to kill, the Draken cadet who had laughed at her stumbled back in fear and shouted at Lyra, asking what she could possibly do, and that was when she lifted her hands to her scarf, her fingers steady now, and slowly pulled it aside, revealing the dragon tattoo etched into her skin, dark lines blazing to life with golden light that filled the room like a rising sun. And the laughter died instantly as a wave of pressure rolled outward, cracking the floor and throwing cadets to the ground, the dragon's eyes glowing as if waking from a long sleep. And Lyra felt the connection open inside her chest, linking her to something vast and ancient built by human hands and human hope. And as the Dominion creature leapt toward her, she raised her hand and space itself bent, crushing the enemy flat as if reality had decided to obey her will. And silence fell, broken only by distant explosions, as every alien in the room stared at the small human girl who now stood glowing with power. And when someone whispered in fear what she was, Lyra answered calmly that she was human. And far beyond the Academy, hidden across human space, systems long asleep began to wake, answering the signal carried by the glowing dragon. Because the laughter of the class had been the last sound of an old belief dying, the belief that humans were weak, and as the Academy shook under enemy fire, Lyra looked up at the burning sky with quiet determination, knowing the galaxy was about to learn what humanity truly was when pushed to the edge. Far across human space, alarms blared on stations and ships alike, marking the arrival of the Voidborn Dominion in territories no one had expected them to reach. And on Earth, Admiral Jonah Reyes stood on the bridge of the flagship Ardent, watching the holographic projection of the galaxy light up with red warning signals that blinked relentlessly as each Dominion vessel tore through the outer defenses, and his hands clenched around the railing because he knew what this meant. Lyra Hale had activated the Dragon program, an ancient human technology thought to be a myth, a legend built in secret over centuries to protect humanity from threats no other species could withstand. And now the program had awakened through her, not as a weapon to destroy, but as a beacon that connected every human soldier, every human ship, and every human heart to one another. And while the Dominion fleet spread across the system like a shadow that devoured light, human ships slipped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, black hulls sleek and angular, their dragon symbols blazing in golden light that mirrored the tattoo on Lyra's skin, each captain understanding instantly what they had to do. And as they engaged, the Dominion unleashed their first wave of fighters, fast and deadly, designed to annihilate anything in their path. But human pilots met them head-on with daring maneuvers that no alien species had anticipated, weaving through swarms of enemy ships, turning near misses into opportunities to strike. And Lyra watched from the Academy, her body floating above the ground, the dragon's energy wrapping around her like a living armor as she connected mentally with the fleet, feeling every heartbeat, every fear, every surge of courage. And she guided them through the battlefield with quiet precision, a single thought moving like ripples through thousands of human minds. And as the Voidborn unleashed heavier weapons, energy lances cutting through the vacuum of space and tearing apart ships in seconds, Lyra extended her power further, bending reality to shield human vessels, deflecting blasts, and giving them the moments they needed to counterattack. While on the academy floor, cadets and instructors alike watched in awe and fear, alien cadets dropping weapons as they realized humans were not just soldiers, but a force that could fight in ways they had never imagined, and yet the Dominion was relentless, sending a World Eater, a massive ship the size of a moon, designed to obliterate any planetary installation, straight toward the Academy, its core weapon charged with destructive energy that could annihilate thousands in a single strike. And human ships formed a desperate line, some firing their rail cannons, others crashing into enemy vessels to delay them, taking hit after hit, losing hundreds but slowing the unstoppable force. While Lyra rose higher, the dragon light blazing across her body, a golden aura burning through the smoke and rubble of the Academy as she connected directly with the World Eater. Feeling the immense presence of its intelligence, an alien mind trying to calculate, to anticipate, to destroy, and yet she remained calm, whispering quietly to herself, reminding herself of the human history that had prepared her for this moment. The wars on Earth, the training in secret rooms, the countless failures that had taught humanity to endure, to adapt, to survive, and in that moment, the Dominion intelligence tried to reason with her, speaking not with words but with thoughts, calling her small, weak, fragile, a human too puny to challenge a moon-sized killer, and Lyra smiled faintly, understanding that this arrogance was their greatest mistake, because humans were not defined by size or strength alone, but by ingenuity, courage, and the will to fight when all seemed lost. And as she focused, the dragon energy extended outward, intertwining with human ships, creating a net of light and power that pulsed like a heartbeat across the battlefield, allowing smaller vessels to strike critical systems in the World Eater while the larger ships distracted and absorbed attacks. And on the ground, Cadets who had mocked her before were now scrambling to keep up. Some firing weapons with new confidence, some moving debris to save comrades. All inspired by the visible manifestation of what humanity could achieve when united. And the Dominion, sensing their enemy's resilience growing, unleashed drones and boarding pods designed to breach ships. But human Marines met them with unmatched ferocity, fighting through corridors with precision, coordinating over comms that carried the mental guidance of the Dragon Link, while Lyra guided power surges to shield troops, and in space above, pilots who had once feared death now executed near-impossible maneuvers, ramming, shooting, dodging, each act of courage amplified by the network connecting every human in the fight, and despite losing many ships, humanity's fleet kept advancing, slowing the World Eater, hacking its systems with engineers who risked their lives to plant explosives and overload reactors while under direct fire. The Dominion's confidence faltering with each failure, unable to comprehend the persistence and unity of humans, and Lyra, sensing the critical moment, extended the Dragon's reach fully into the World Eater, bending reality around it, forcing its massive hull to strain and crack. The alien intelligence struggling against an impossible connection, as if the universe itself had chosen sides. And yet the cost was visible everywhere. The Academy shook from incoming fire, debris falling around cadets who ducked and scrambled. Human ships were burning, alarms screeched, and bodies were lost in space, but still humanity pressed forward, because retreat was not an option. And finally, after minutes that felt like hours, the Dragon energy stabilized the battlefield enough to give humans a chance to strike directly at the core of the World Eater. With boarding teams entering at precise moments, Marines pushing past metal and fire, engineers working in unison, pilots covering their backs in daring runs through enemy fire, and Lyra herself was the anchor, the living connection that allowed this impossible coordination to happen, guiding every strike, every movement, every heart to synchronize in a perfect, deadly rhythm. And through all this chaos, she realized something deeper. The Dragon was not just power. It was a symbol, a promise of humanity's resolve, showing every species in the galaxy that humans were not weak, that they did not flee from superior forces. And as the battle raged, humans continued to fight, innovating in the middle of destruction, improvising weapons, using debris as cover, turning the Dominion's machines against themselves, refusing to bow, refusing to die quietly, and above it all, Lyra's glowing form became a beacon of hope, a sign that even the smallest human could make the difference when driven by courage and purpose. And as the World Eater strained under attacks, the Dominion fleet wavered, its confidence shaken by the unexpected unity, resilience, and audacity of humanity, forcing it to reconsider its strategy for the first time. While in the Academy, the surviving cadets stared at Lyra with awe, the fear and mockery of earlier replaced by disbelief and respect, and the galaxy itself seemed to pause for a moment, watching as humans demonstrated that even against overwhelming odds, they could fight with precision, heart, and ingenuity, proving that strength was not always measured in size or technology, but in spirit, determination, and the willingness to rise when everything else falls. As the Dragon's energy spread like wildfire, connecting every human being in the system to the mission, guiding each one toward victory, and showing that even a single human girl could ignite the courage of thousands, inspiring them to become more than they had ever imagined, until the final confrontation with the World Eater loomed on the horizon, and humanity, battered but unbroken, prepared to deliver the blow that would decide the fate of the Academy, the system, and perhaps the entire galaxy. The final battle against the Voidborn Dominion began with a deafening roar as human ships, battered and smoking from earlier waves, pressed forward with a single purpose: to destroy the World Eater and protect the Academy and the system. While cadets and instructors watched from the ground, barely able to comprehend the scale of the destruction unfolding in orbit, and Lyra Hale, floating above the battlefield with the dragon tattoo blazing across her body, felt every heartbeat of every human soldier and every vessel connected to her. The dragon energy flowing through her like molten fire, giving humans the coordination, courage, and strength to act as one. As Marines boarded the World Eater with deadly precision, fighting through narrow metal corridors filled with alien machinery, while engineers planted explosives and forced doors with nothing but brute force and ingenuity, and pilots wove through swarms of Dominion fighters, ramming enemy ships when their ammo ran out and creating openings for boarding pods, each action carefully guided by Lyra's connection, which amplified every thought and plan across the battlefield, making humans act as if they were parts of a single organism, synchronized and unstoppable, while the Dominion tried to react with overwhelming force, firing energy beams that tore through space and slicing apart smaller ships. But human determination never wavered as the crews adapted instantly, using debris and wreckage as cover, redirecting power to shields at the perfect moment, and launching counterattacks that exploited weaknesses no alien species could have predicted. And as the World Eater's core loomed closer, a monstrous presence of metal, fire, and shadow, Lyra reached the inner sanctum, the heart of the massive ship alone, her dragon energy radiating like a star, facing the Dominion intelligence that spoke directly into her mind, taunting her with claims of human frailty and the impossibility of defeating a moon-sized weapon. Yet Lyra smiled faintly, remembering every failure humans had survived, every city rebuilt from ashes, every enemy overcome not by brute strength but by courage, cleverness, and unity, and she placed her hand on the core, feeling its power and calculating mind strain against her presence. And in a blinding burst, the dragon energy detached from her body, becoming a massive luminous dragon of fire and light, coiling around the World Eater, crushing its immense hull, bending metal and energy as if the universe itself had chosen to obey her will, while outside, human ships coordinated perfectly, striking at critical systems, boarding teams moving in sync with pilots covering every angle. The Dominion struggling to comprehend the unexpected persistence, courage, and unity of humans, and every cadet in the Academy watched in awe as Lyra's dragon engulfed the World Eater, the explosions lighting the system like a second sun. A display of power not born of arrogance but of sheer human determination, and as the ship finally broke apart, massive chunks disintegrating in space, the Dominion fleet wavered and fled, losing confidence in a species that refused to bow. While human survivors drifted in the wreckage, exhausted, grieving, yet unbroken, and Lyra fell to the ground, her tattoo gone, the dragon's energy having left her body after delivering victory, leaving her alive but humbled, as medics rushed to her side. Cadets who had laughed before now staring in silent respect, the galaxy learning in those hours that humans were not weak, that they fought with heart, intelligence, and unbreakable resolve. And when the Galactic Council convened later, the records were changed to reflect the truth. Humans were a force to be reckoned with, species that protected each other above all else, capable of standing against powers that dwarfed them, and Lyra returned to her classroom, scarred but alive, no longer mocked, as the small human girl who had once been laughed at now carried the memory of victory and sacrifice, a living symbol of humanity's resilience, inspiring cadets and soldiers alike. And when asked about the dragon, she smiled softly, understanding that the true power had never been in the tattoo or in her alone, but in humanity's spirit, their ability to rise, to unite, and to fight when the galaxy expected them to fail, proving that humans would burn before they bowed. that courage and unity could overcome any odds, and that even a single human, small and underestimated, could change the fate of the stars, leaving a legacy that would be remembered in every ship, every planet, and every human heart for generations to come, as the galaxy slowly healed from the devastation. Yet no species would ever forget the day a human girl, her dragon glowing bright, showed the universe what it truly meant to fight for life, for hope, and for each other, and in the silence that followed the destruction, humans looked at one another with pride, knowing they had achieved the impossible, and that the Dragon program had not only saved them, but had reminded the cosmos of a truth that could not be erased. When humanity fights together, nothing can stand in their way.